Good morning and welcome into the Weather Now Kentucky channel. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with W&K, and sorry about that. My camera decided it wanted to reset as soon as I hit live. You really gotta love when stuff just does what it wants to do. So let me fix all the stuff here that we put in every single time. There we go. That's a little bit better. That's a little bit better. Listen, I've had like 30 minutes of sleep, so no matter what way I put this camera, I'm not gonna look pretty today. I'm not going to look pretty today. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in here. I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now Kentucky. And our first round is underway, and it's kind of performing as expected. This round was always going to struggle a little bit at first because the cap that was in place lit over the environment that we talked about several times. Um, I do expect that it will start to ramp up here very soon because we are starting to see some evidence of the cap starting to erode. Basically, what that means is that the lid is starting to come off of the environment a little bit because those faster winds that we talked about all day yesterday are now moving into place above our heads. So when that occurs, and we get a little bit cooler like we are right now, even though it's still very warm and humid outside, you're going to start to see these storms be able to live longer and longer, get more mature. And that's what we're seeing out there in western Kentucky and in west of Kentucky. All right, so let's go ahead and pull up our radar here. Before we do that, if you wouldn't mind, again, you guys are going to hear me say this a lot today. A lot today. So you might as well go ahead and do it each time you come in here. Share the broadcast out on your news feed so that way your friends and family can view it. We have a new severe warning just come out. I'll get to that here in just a moment. But share the video on your news feed. That allows your friends and family on your friends list to view it and allows them to get informed, up to date, and what to expect, and it helps us spread our information out. So thank you guys very much for your help with that. We appreciate you. Let's go ahead and head to our live radar real quickly, via weather-wise, and then we'll look at some model data and we'll go over kind of the day. As of right now, not a whole lot has changed with our forecast. There is one slight change that might be a big deal. So I'll talk to you about that scenario here in just 1 second. Of course, let's go ahead and get through the radar real quickly. Thank you for all the hearts and stuff that are coming across the screen. I even see some angry faces, which, you know what? I understand. I understand. All right. Let's go ahead and zoom in here. This is where we have observed 1-inch quarter-sized hail, probably observed by EMS out there. Yep, emergency management. Who observed that? I wonder if that was in Litchfield. Okay, so Grayson County Emergency Management confirmed that. All right. So we do have quarter-sized hail in this cell here. Ironically enough, this is probably going to be one of the smaller hail cores that we see today. The hail threat is, I already talked about last night on our updates last night. I talked to you guys about how large the hail threat was. And I think as I sit here with you at 6:30 this morning Eastern time, I think that hail threat is growing even larger. And again, I will show you the model data and the newest forecast and all that information. And sorry if I'm very monotone and boring this morning. I hate doing that. But guys, I'm trying to pace myself. It's going to be a long day. I've already only had like an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes of sleep. So I'm trying to pace myself. Hopefully we can squeeze in a nap at some point this afternoon. But we'll see how those goes, or how that goes. So if I sound boring or monotone, or if I put you to sleep, I'm sorry. Drink some coffee with me. We're ready to rock and roll today. Okay, we're all pushing through this together. Anyway, we do have a severe warning here for Hodgeville, Buffalo, New Haven, Sonora, Magnolia, Big Clifty, Litchfield. That's going to be for a quarter-sized hail and less than 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, so not too bad on the winds there. We do have that live cam out of Hodgeville via telecast communication, so we'll go ahead and take a look at that camera once that storm system gets a little bit closer. I believe I have that camera pointed to about as far southwest as I can without running into the radar tower there. Or the tower there, not radar tower, sorry. We do have a cluster of storms out here that were briefly severe earlier, now going strong, and you can see what's happening here. So we'll talk about this warning here in a minute out in western Kentucky. Just 1 minute. I want to show you what's happening here. So you'll see these storms are kind of going into central and eastern Kentucky, and they're starting to die down. But your storms back out here to the west are actually beginning to fire and really begin to get going. So the main show for at least this first round is probably going to be back here. As that moves to the east, these storms over here in central Kentucky, they should, let me put that out there, they should continue to die down as they move to the east. They may pulse up and down and briefly put out some borderline warnings like they're doing right now. This is a pretty borderline severe warning. I think we can all agree. However, it's still quarter-sized hail warning, so likely causing some small damages there. But the reason for that is, and again, I'll show you the model data, take you through today, take you through the forecast and all that. Just hang tight here with me. Let's get through what we're seeing right now. The reason for that is western Kentucky, where you see this big gap in the blue here. This blue is that cap or that lid that we talk about famously over and over and over again. So that's negative energy working against the storms, or helping to keep them tamed, or helping to keep them from forming at all. So you'll see those darker blues are over eastern Kentucky. That's where more negative energy is. It even stretches over to I-65 there. So what we're seeing is storms that are firing up in western Kentucky or west of Kentucky. Very little to no cap or lid there. So they're able to fire, get nice and severe really quickly, which will be the case today. I'm telling you guys, you're going to see multiple instances today where a rain shower pops up on radar and 5 minutes later it's a severe warning. That's how quick it's a snap of a finger. They're going to go severe very, very quickly. And that's, again, because of the lower level jet that we're dealing with, all right? And all the ample amount of energy, if you will, for lack of better words. So, again, not as much of a lid out there in western Kentucky. That will continue to move east. So, we will see this cap slowly break from west to east over the next few hours, and that's why we expect more storms to grow throughout the morning. So again, that's kind of why you're seeing more warnings out to the west right now than you are here. Even though you do have this one warning here, more of your warnings are back out in western Kentucky because that's where more positive energy is for storms, and it's also where we have a considerable damage threat already. It is 6:30 in the morning, 5:30 Central Time, and we have our first considerable damage threat. We already have. Let's go ahead and read this here: 2-inch hail and 70-mile-per-hour wind gust. This is going to be moving in toward the Clinton, Barwell, Arlington, and Hickman areas. Again, this is a considerable damage threat on this tag, which is the second highest, I believe, maybe third highest severe warning that there is for thunderstorm warning anyway. I believe it goes considerable, destructive, and emergency. I think. Don't quote me on that. Of course, below that you have your regular severe thunderstorm warning. Let's go ahead and take a look at this to see if we can see any three-body spikes. See some correlation drops there. Nice wind gust all over that. All over that, some nice wind gusts there. Those little peaks that you see there, those little bright blues. Again, guys, it's 6:30 in the morning. It's 6:30 in the morning. It's already doing this. I cannot explain to you what the threat level is later on today. I will show you on the model data here in a second. Let's go and talk about this warning a little bit further here. Very large hail core. Very, very large hail core there. So again, we're talking about. The sun's barely even come up. We haven't even really gotten to sunrise settling in yet, and we've already got storms producing considerable damage out in western Kentucky. Again, this is moving, by the way, at about a speed of. Let's go ahead and just use a cheat code here. It's about 60 miles per hour to the east, so they're already rocketing. So again, the better lower level jet speeds out here to the west, where that less of that cap is. So these storms are moving faster than the ones in central Kentucky. The one in central Kentucky is moving at a speed, never mind, I'm lying to you, 70 mile per hour. That was not 70 mile per hour before. That was like 45 mile per hour like 15 minutes ago. So you got these storms really beginning to ramp up now, and the faster they're going, the faster they're turning severe. So you got a large, considerable severe thunderstorm out here. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Let's go ahead before that gets anything closer to western Kentucky. Let's go ahead and take a look at the model analysis here. But before we do that, let's go ahead and show you the outlook that has come out from the SPC. This should update, I believe, at 9 a.m. Someone can correct me on that if I'm wrong. We'll have a new map on this at 9 a.m. When that map comes out at 9 a.m., I don't expect too many changes. I feel like if they're going to make changes, it's probably closer to the early afternoon update, which I believe is 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., something like that. I can't ever remember the times because there's so many different time zones. But anyway, a level 4 out of 5 risk. This was expanded overnight, by the way, if you guys didn't notice. I believe on our last update, it ended at Frankfort and just to the west of Lexington, and now it's including almost all of the I-75 corridor there, as well as, of course, all of western Kentucky. You could make the argument that this might need to be expanded further east. Again, they may do that whenever confidence rises later on today. As the reason that this 4 out of 5 does not include eastern Kentucky right now is because models keep indicating that there's going to be stalling rain showers there later on this morning, which will help to tame your environment a little bit. Also, when that squall line comes through later on tonight, again, I'll show you on model data, and this will all make sense to you, I promise. But when that squall line comes through later on tonight, it's not at an optimal timing for eastern Kentucky. By the time it gets to eastern Kentucky, it'll be a little bit later, probably closer to midnight. And so, but you'll still see, again, a level 3 out of 5 risk is still that upper echelon. Also, I've seen a lot of people asking me if a high risk is going to come out. I think we're very close. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think we're very close. Now, whoa, look at that camera in Hodgeville real quickly. You can't even see anything. Wow, that is a storm. Very low. Again, if anybody was watching that camera just a few moments ago, it was clear. Look at the visibility. It's very low. This is why we're telling folks to stay home today if you can. This is just one of those risks that we have today. Anyway, I just have to look up and catch that real quickly. This where I was at is we're very close. Someone asked me the question on Twitter earlier, and I responded in the way of I think we're at the highest threshold of a moderate risk. If anything on model data continues to indicate that the tornado risk grows any further, I think we probably see a high risk come out. And if there is a high risk to come out, it's probably close to Northwest Kentucky. I would say Owensboro, Morganfield, maybe Paducah, Madisonville, Evansville, Indiana, Harrisburg, Illinois. That would probably be the corridor where I could see it happening, because to me that's the best chance for a and I hate to say this, but a long-lived violent tornado. That would be that corridor there. I don't think at this point you'll see a high risk come out. Again, because it's all about evolution of today's storms. When you have this many rounds of storms, it lowers the confidence in that bullseye or that main line that we're going to be talking about later on today for tonight. So there's still some question marks, but I mean, the data that I've seen this morning is indicating one of the most robust environments that we've seen in Kentucky in quite some time. And that's not to scare you. That is, listen, guys, our job behind the desk, no matter who you watch, is and again, some people may do different things, but our sole job it should be to communicate what our eyes are seeing, no matter what that is, good, bad, ugly, or pretty. And today's setup looks like it could be one of those setups. It does, because again, we're talking about the amount of wind energy that we have above our heads, mixed with the amount of warm and moist air coming up from the Gulf, mixed with the amount of dry air that we have forcing on the backside. It doesn't create a pretty setup. Hopefully your storm preparations are already done. So again, that's the level 4 of Herbig risk. I don't want to spill too long because I want to get back to the warnings that are coming out soon. Let's go ahead and look at your tornado risk. This was upgraded, by the way. This was 10% last night. They have added a 15% in this red zone right here. And also the hatched area that you're seeing, the black hatched lines there, that indicates a 10% chance of a significant tornado occurring within 25 miles of a point. So what that means is, for example, EF2 or greater tornado is classified as significant. I do think we'll see a few of those today. Again, given the amount of wind energy that we have, and models have been indicating some clearing to occur, quite the amount of clearing to occur late morning to early afternoon, especially for central and western Kentucky. And if that is to occur, and we do see slightly clearer skies, along with storms not really going in Tennessee, they're mainly out in eastern Kentucky. If we see some blank canvases around lunchtime, we have a problem. We have a problem. Okay, and again, that's not to scare anyone. That's just the matter of the fact. Okay. So again, we do have a 15% risk for tornadoes in that red zone, 10% in yellow, 5% in brown. All right. Here is your wind risk, which is the highest risk of all of these modes from the SPC. This is a 45% in pink or purple, whatever you want to call that. And again, that blankets almost the entire, actually the entire moderate risk, because it is a wind-driven moderate risk. But we're very close to this being a tornado-driven moderate risk. Again, you have this red area encompassing, so pretty much all of Kentucky, actually all of Kentucky is in at least a 30% chance to see severe winds, which, by the way, is greater than 57 miles per hour. In that hatch zone that you're seeing, which also includes all of Kentucky, is a 10% chance of seeing significant or destructive wind gusts, which is greater than 74 miles per hour, which is hurricane force winds. So you can see that percentage, that chance includes all of Kentucky. So if you're going to ask me, if I look over there and see, George, what about my backyard? What about my front yard? How's my porch going to be? Are we going to see it? Everyone in Kentucky is at play to at least see destructive winds today. And again, that's not to scare you. That's just a matter of the fact. You can see it for yourself there. This is not even our forecast. This is the SPC's forecast. The hail threat looks like this. I do agree with this as well. Some people are going to ask why the hail threat is mainly just for, western, north central, northern Kentucky, and not really for eastern Kentucky. Once again, the hail threat's mainly for when these storms first kind of get going, and then by the time they get out toward eastern Kentucky, they lose a little bit of that elevated or that surface-based rotation there, and they go more elevated, and that's where more of the wind threat really kicks in. So that the hail threat's more for those first few lines. I think that last line that we're talking about is more going to be your tornadic and your damaging wind. You're still going to see some large hail from that, by the way. So I don't want anyone out in eastern Kentucky where you're not hatched. I don't want you to think, oh, we're good. We don't have to worry about hail. No, get your vehicles inside, cover them, whatever it might be. Like this morning, I forgot to cover our car before I went to bed last night. So I had to cover this morning while it was pouring down, and it was not fun. So take advice from me. Go ahead and do it before things happen, especially if you're not going anywhere. It doesn't hurt to go ahead and do it. So that's your outlooks from the SPC. And again, all those are posted to our page, so you can go look at those whenever you like. Here's the model data, because I want to kind of hurry up and get through this and get back to the warnings here. Let me turn the warnings back on. I just want to see if they've updated this real quickly. This is still a considerable damage threat. Actually, it just updated it. Yeah, still considerable damage threat out there in western Kentucky. All right. So let's go ahead and look at the model data real quickly to take you through today. This model run in particular will not see the entire event, but I will show you a run that does see the entire event. But this is the newest run of the HRRR model that's coming through. And it's doing okay so far. It's not doing great, but it's not doing terrible either. So we'll go ahead and look at it a little bit here. So this is valid for about right now. You can see it sees the cluster out there approaching western Kentucky. It's a little bit too far south of that cluster, though. The cluster is actually a little bit further to the north. And you'll see that it's also seeing the clusters for central Kentucky. So it's not doing terrible. It's doing okay. And it indicates that those clusters for central Kentucky should begin to die down as they approach I-75. The southern part of this cluster that you see right here, this is going to be the main morning show, okay? So this is mainly going to be for the southern half of Kentucky, all right? And you kind of follow along right here. Timestamps are on the top left. If you want Eastern time, you just add an hour to it. So this would be 9 a.m. Eastern time. And those are your timestamps up there in the top left. I will get to some of your questions here in just a moment, by the way. I see a lot of your questions coming through here. Thank you guys for all the shares and likes and all those good, all that good stuff. Thank you very much. All right, advance this forward to 10 a.m. You'll see what I mean. The southern part of that line is going to be the more severe part. And this is all indicating very large hail and damaging winds. There is also a tornado risk with this line. But to me, this is much lower. I think the large hail and damaging wind risk is going to be your primary threats for this main line. But I cannot rule out a couple of tornado warnings this morning as well. 11 a.m. Eastern time, you'll just see it just hammers. It just hammers along the parkways to point south toward Tennessee. Just hammering it. All these brown circles that you're seeing is the model trying to pick up on rotation occurring. So, and again, just remember, rotation does not mean tornadic activity exclusively. It can mean a bunch of things. It can mean tornadic activity, but it can also mean very large hail or a downburst of damaging winds. So again, rotation just indicates that a cell is pretty much severe. Okay, advancing this forward. By the time this gets out to eastern Kentucky, it should begin to die down. But again, it still shows, again, that southern part of that line. So for this first morning line here, it's starting to get pretty clear that this is for the southern half of Kentucky. So for those of you asking about, travel this morning and so far and so forth, so on and so forth, again, if you know where the parkways are at in Kentucky, which kind of runs through just the middle of Kentucky right here, it's below that toward Tennessee where we expect to see the bulk of the severe weather this morning. That will change by this afternoon and evening. Advance this forward, you'll see it kind of keeps some of those cells rotating, but it's not as bad. So we'll keep a track on those all morning for you. But look at what's happening back out here. Not a whole lot of activity. That storm system rolls out. We have a few pop-up cells here, but those will actually begin to die down because this storm system, or this round, left a cap here. So these should die down, which they do. They kind of blow up real quickly, and then they'll die down very fast. They could turn into supercells. We'll keep an eye on that. But you'll see there's about, 11 a.m., right? Noon, 1, and then here's your main line, not really getting here until about 7 to 8. So you have about a 6 to 8 hour period. If we don't see any storms, that's bad news, folks. That's bad news. Because all that's going to do is, like we explained last night with you guys, is when we have those gaps that we're talking about there. Also, I should be on the main screen right now. Whoopsie. When we have those gaps in that storm coverage and those clouds lighten up, that warm air that we're talking about is going to just rocket, and I mean just rocket back up to Kentucky. All right, and it's actually going to go even further. It's going to go up toward, Indiana and so on and so forth. The low pressure is sitting up here. There's a high pressure sitting down here. And you have kind of a jet stream that kind of wiggles like this a little bit. Kind of wiggles like this as a split flow. It's not a perfect drawing, but you get my point. And then the warm air just rockets up because it wants to get to the low pressure. It's trying to be best friends with it. So whenever there's anything clearing right here, will have that warm air advection move very quickly up into Kentucky. So what we're rooting for today is that Tennessee just gets hammered with storms all morning and all afternoon, because what that will do is help to block the warm air advection from getting further north and will help take our storm energy down a little bit. Again, I think either way you slice it, we're talking about a very high ceiling threat, but there are some ways we can avoid the highest of ceilings. Do I think that's possible? No, because there's going to be such a strong cap left in place from these storms here that I think eventually we're going to see a dry or a period where there's not a whole lot going on. And again, that's going to aid in the destabilization of the atmosphere. So advance this forward. So that's 8 p.m. By the way, this line enters western Kentucky. There might be some gaps in this line, by the way. The models have been depicting two separate lines here. I don't know how much I'm buying that. I think these lines are going to try and congeal and connect themselves. But again, the model is trying to depict a discrete supercell setup, which is again not the storm mode we want to deal with. That's the storm mode that's usually produces some of the worst severe weather. All right, but again, you might get lucky. So for example, Owensboro to Evansville along the northwestern Kentucky, along the Ohio River here, it's been showing gaps for you the last few model runs. Again, do not take that as a guarantee. Oh, nice, we're not going to see anything. No, because again, how accurate this is, it's not going to be perfect. So again, there's going to be a gap somewhere, but where that gap sets up, it's yet to be seen. By the way, you kind of look out here, you see some of these supercells occurring out there in eastern Kentucky, which is again the argument that you might be able to make for a moderate risk out there to be expanded. Again, it's iffy, 50-50 at this point. But this line coming in here, it's powerful. It is powerful. Again, this is your main show here. The biggest difference between this morning's runs and last night's runs that we showed you. So last night's runs that we showed you, here's the run from last evening. Okay, this is valid for about right now. It's doing okay. It's doing okay. Not great, but it's doing okay. The biggest difference is you'll see that it's trying to bring in a late afternoon round and then another line on the backside. If you go and look at right now, the newest model run coming in, right? We'll see here, this is valid for right now, so not terrible for the morning, but it does not see that late afternoon round. It doesn't. So again, what that allows for it to happen is that last round that we're talking about that's attached to the actual front, that might be even stronger than we advertised last night. So that's where some of those higher hail probabilities come in. We're talking about hail that might be up to softball size in some isolated portions of a cell, and widespread golf ball, widespread tennis ball size hail. I mean, we're talking about a good chunk of Kentucky being at play for very, very, very large hail. So that's the main differences right now. Again, that might go back and forth all day. We'll see how that evolves. What I'll do is show you the newest long-range run of this model and kind of go into the late night hours tonight. So this is valid for, we kind of left off right here. So this is valid for 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I mean, just look at this line. You don't need me here to tell you that this is going to be bad news. I mean, there's just hell cores all over this place. There are pockets of rotation. You can even see Boeing segments being picked out by the model, which is actually crazy. Boeing, which is pretty incredible because those are your segments where you can see those tornadoes occurring. So advancing this forward is 11. And then around midnight to 1 a.m. as this gets out to eastern Kentucky, it should finally begin to die down. So we genuinely do have a long day ahead. So we're trying to pace ourselves. So I just want to warn you that there's going to be times today where we have warnings out and about, but we're not going to be live. Again, because since this is such a higher threshold day, we have a higher ceiling day. We have a higher threshold for when we go live because we have to pace ourselves a little bit here. We already have very little sleep from last night. I've already cut the coffee going. But again, there's going to be times today where there's warnings out there and we're not going to be live. So I don't want you guys to be mad at us. Of course, we'll be live for the more serious warnings no matter how little energy we may have. But I want to try to pace ourselves a little bit today. So I'll get to some of your questions here in just a second. Let me go ahead and do a quick radar recap of where we are right now. We do have a very strong severe thunderstorm moving through Columbus, Clinton, Arlington, and Bardwell, Kentucky. This will move toward Mayfield, Hickory, Fancy Farm, Lowe's, Priorsburg, Farmington, Wingo over the next 30 to 40 minutes or so. And again, this is right now producing about ping pong ball sized hail, as well as 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gust. So again, very, very strong and severe thunderstorm there. We do have some little cells, again, western Kentucky here, not quite severe, but wouldn't be surprised to see these start to grow and get stronger. We'll see if any warnings come out for this while we're live. Again, we do have the one severe warning over here for central Kentucky, where we do have observed 1 inch, which is quarter-sized hail, and 60 mile per hour wind gusts. This is right now moving east of Hodgenville and moving out toward Raywick, New Hope, and Loretto. Real quickly, I want to see if I can move this camera back to the east. Let me log back in real quick. I wish it didn't time me out so fast. I'll keep putting the wrong password. So we move this camera to the east, we might be able to see the storm. Yeah, you can see the backside. See how it looks foggy there? It's the backside of that storm system that just went through Hodgenville. I'm trying to get it to where it's not in the way of this cord here. You can see on the left side of your screen. Let me do it this way. Freaking cool. Freaking cable. Okay. All right. A few questions now. We're not going to get into too many backyard questions because, again, we spent all day yesterday, last couple days doing that. All kinds of graphs on our page to go with timing. By the way, just want to show you real quickly in case you did miss it. Let's see if I still have it here. And of course I don't. Let me pull it up on our Twitter real quickly. Of course, here, just save the image. This is the timing graphic that we made last night that's already been put on our Facebook and Twitter. Again, we really can't get a whole lot more specific than this. Not a whole lot has changed. The only thing that may have changed is this third row right here. And again, I'm not going to make any changes just yet because we need to wait and see. It's only 7 o'clock in the morning. These models might be a little bit inaccurate. But the only one that may change is this third row where we may not see storm activity in that third row. Again, that was the one change I showed you on model data. But as of right now, we're still going to roll with this for now. All right. Yeah, NWS changed the timing as well. And again, that's mainly for that third row that you're seeing there, that 1 to 7 p.m. time frame, where now models aren't really showing too much storm coverage during that time frame. So again, and if that's the case, that last line that you see there, that 7 to 1 a.m., that's going to be even stronger. So what we're rooting for right now is that storms actually to occur. We need it to start storming, like big time. Because if we don't, we're going to have a problem tonight. The tornado threat has increased, yes. Do you think schools will close? Again, that's not up to me. I stay out of that stuff because it's just a messy thing. All I do is when they call and they ask, or when they email or message and they ask, I give them our insight and then they make the decision. I don't think you'll see schools close, mainly because, again, right now, storm coverage is pretty spotty, so a lot of buses can continue to go on. Of course, where storms are, you might see a few delays just from the wind speeds, because the buses really have a hard time going through those wind speeds. But again, with the evolution of this third line really not showing up on models right now, you might see storms continue, or schools actually go in as normal. Again, because the model data right now is not really indicating an afternoon line. Where in the state do you think the main line will start to die down? Far eastern Kentucky. Sierra, thank you for that report there. I appreciate that. Standard Well, good morning from Richmond. Good morning to you, my friend. Cody on YouTube, thank you for that report there out of Buffalo. I'm supposed to go to a Reds game in Cincinnati tonight. You think it's got a bad idea? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll probably delay that at some point. The start time's probably, 7? If it's in Cincinnati, probably 7. Storm line will probably be in Cincinnati, 9, 10 o'clock. The travel back is not going to be pretty. To me, it's not worth the risk. The travel there in the actual game itself might not be too bad, but the travel back is not going to be pretty. Is Bowling Green in the bullseye? I think pretty much everyone in Kentucky is in the bullseye, if you will. Again, all the maps that you're seeing right now are pretty much covering all of Kentucky. So I don't think there's any one area that's more prone than the other. The only thing I can say is that, in my opinion, the western half of Kentucky, so if you split Kentucky in the middle, which is the I-65 line pretty much, that left half or that western half, that to me has a little bit more potential just because, again, that's where the lines are going to get to a little bit faster. Thank you, Chelsea. I appreciate that. Reds are going to lose anyways. Don't waste your time. Ban that guy. Go Reds. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Can you show the new NWS maps? I'll show them again in just one moment. I just showed them a brief moment ago, but I'm going to leave this timing graphic up for a little bit longer. If in a mobile home at Smith's Grove, should I be covered with this morning round to get to a 30-year building? I think it's going to be close. So, again, in that way, I would play it safe and do so. And again, even if we don't see tornadic activity, the hail threat is so large and the straight line wind threat is so large that anyone in any type of non-steady structure probably should have plans to get to a more safe structure. What time would you recommend leaving if you have to travel to Western Kentucky? Yeah, again, you may have a window close to lunchtime. I don't know where you're leaving from to get to Western Kentucky, which I need that context to give you a better answer. But probably late morning to early afternoon. And again, I'm not going to get into too many of the zip code, front yard, backyard questions because, again, you're going to get the same answers, guys. Everyone in the state is included in this risk today, no matter what color or number that you're in. Everyone's at play to see destructive thunderstorms today. That does not mean everywhere in Kentucky is going to see a destructive thunderstorm. That just means everyone in Kentucky has that potential. Hello, most weather apps are indecisive, and that's after today. How's tomorrow look? Some say nice weather, some say bad. Again, that's why you shouldn't be using weather apps. But again, I think once you get through this, the cold front comes in behind it. I don't think we see much of a severe risk on Saturday. You might see some spotty showers on Saturday and Sunday, but as far as severe weather, I don't really see that too much. Living in Plum Springs area, could you give me a time frame for storms this morning? Anywhere between now and about 10 to 11 a.m. Again, I really can't get more specific than that because you may have cells pop up in front. There may be lines that there might be a line that develops behind this line. So again, unfortunately, these windows are quite wide for a reason. Look at that storm on the camera. From again, this camera is courtesy. I know it says has cams up there, but this is courtesy of Telecast Communications. So thank you to them for the camera. Now that the storm is exiting Hodgeville, you can see the base of the storm there. Very, very nice structure on that storm there. I'm going to see if I can move that camera a little bit more to the right. Look at that storm. Wow, look at that storm there. That's a really good base. So again, this is exiting Hodgenville, heading out to the east of Hodgenville. It's a really good picture there, Cam. So again, a very nice wall cloud. And you see some little notches. Those are those inflows. Those little notches that you're seeing on the bottom portion of those cloud bases on the right side. Those are little inflows to that storm, allowing it to continue to kick up the energy. And you can see the very thin wall of the clouds there. Okay. I wanted to get some captures of that. That's why I did that. And again, just for reference, that is going to be this storm right here. That's moving at Lebanon, Springfield, Raywick. So this is definitely a severe thunderstorm. 1 inch quarter size tail, 60 mile per hour wind gust there. Back out here toward Mayfield, we still have that 1.25 inch, so almost ping pong ball size tail, 60-mile-per-hour wind gust threat there from Mayfield to Fancy Farm, Priorsburg, Wingo, Hickory, Arlington, and Clinton, Kentucky. Okay, I see a lot of travel questions. Again, my advice again today, guys, is stay off the roads if you can, unless you absolutely have to go. And if you do, again, late morning, early afternoon will be your best time to travel. Where's the storm at now? Again, it's right there on your radar screen. We have multiple rounds. Our later rounds of storms have not developed yet, so they're not anywhere at the moment. This warning has been updated for Lebanon. It's just turned off the backside there. How will Bourbon County Paris be affected? Again, it's the same answer for everyone, folks. And again, I'm just being blunt today because we have so much information to get through. Everyone's at risk to see destructive thunderstorms today, with all modes being possible. When does it get bad in Louisville? Again, here's your timing graph that we posted last night. Again, the only one in question from the only one that may be removed from this time frame is this third one here, because right now models are not seeing this third round right here, which would only make this last round a lot more powerful. I think for Louisville in particular, you're probably looking closer to that 8 to 9 p.m. time frame for your peak. Again, read the key messages on the left side there. These windows are from west to east, so the earlier time frame is going to be your western portions of Kentucky. That latter part of the window is going to be the eastern portion of Kentucky. Central Kentucky, which is the middle portion of Kentucky, will be in the middle of that window. Gabby, unfortunately, I think that's going to be one of the more peak times. So again, my travel window for anyone recommending any travel today is going to be late morning, early afternoon. Outside of that, you have a chance of running into a destructive thunderstorm while you're traveling. Caitlin, there is a tornado chance with this first. There's a tornado chance with all rounds, but the greatest tornado risk is definitely going to be in the afternoon and evening. Jeffrey, yes, I do. Is it safe to get on Kentucky Lake? We're trying to find some bass. Again, when you're dealing with abundant lightning in a storm system, it's never safe to go to a body of water. There'll be plenty more fishing days, my friend. George, no matter how many times you say it, they're going to keep asking questions. I know, but I try to make sure everyone's taken care of. At some, there's always a point where I'm just like, okay, we've answered the same question over and over again. Let's move on. But on a day like today, I try to make sure everyone's taken care of. But again, for everyone asking about location questions and so on and so forth, again, you're going to get the same answers today, guys, because this is one of those rare events where everyone in Kentucky's at risk. Every single one of the 120 counties. Do you think a tornado watch will be issued this morning? No, I think with this line of storms here, you're probably just going to continue to see severe thunderstorm watches, just because, again, the main threats are damaging winds and large hail. But tonight, you'll probably see tornado watches. Yes, Sarah, it's going to be an abnormal day. Are there any best case scenarios for us? Again, the best case scenario for us, I don't think it's going to happen, but something we can root for today, guys, is for a lot of rain and thunderstorms to occur in Tennessee or southern Kentucky. What this is going to do is create a block, if you will, here, kind of like a wall. And that's going to make the warm air and humid air have to go around and around. So again, that's if we're rooting for safer scenarios today, that's the safer scenario you're rooting for. Do I think that's going to happen? No, but that's something that we can root for at least. 4 to 5 p.m. again may have the potential for supercells to pop up, but right now it looks to be pretty much more clear. Stephanie, thank you for that update there. I appreciate that. Tell me how safe Louisville, Kentucky is. Louisville, Kentucky is in a moderate 4 out of 5 risk of severe weather, which is the second highest that you can have. I think you're at play to see destructive thunderstorms, just like the rest of Kentucky today. Kid senior trip today from Allen County, Holiday World Santa Claus. And again, late, they may be able to squeeze in some fun late morning to early afternoon, but again, does the risk outweigh the reward at that point? If the sun shines, will it make the storms worse? No, it won't really have an effect on it today because there's so much warm air advection that we're talking about. The sun shining is not going to make it worse. I mean, it's not going to help at all. But you really don't need the sunshine today. Fort Knox, again, the same answer as anybody else. Again, at risk to see destructive thunderstorms with any of these 3 rounds coming through today. What's the chances of tornadoes in Fleming and Rowan County? Again, depending upon where you're at on that SPC map there. Again, 15% in red, yellow is 10%, and brown is 5%. The cap's still holding on pretty strong, but it should be able to erode here soon. You can already see some gaps starting to fill in. So the cap that we're talking about is these blues. Those are your lids over the environment. If you look about 4 hours ago, there was a lot of blue in Kentucky. If you look right now, it's starting to see some gaps. So you're starting to see that cap already kind of bust up, if you will. Good morning, George. Long day and long night ahead. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. All right, at this point, I think I'm going to take a break. Again, we're not going to. I'm trying to save our energy for later this morning, and of course, late tonight. Of course, if we see a destructive thunderstorm begin to pop up, or of course a tornado warning, we will be back live here with you to cover that. But today, there's going to be some warnings out there, and we're not going to be live for every single one of them because we have to pace ourselves today. This is going to be a very long day. If I had a big old team, that's one thing. But you know, it's me and a few of my friends that are doing this. So we're going to pace ourselves a little bit today. Of course, we'll continue to post radar updates on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And of course, if anything looks life-threatening or dangerous, we'll be back live here with you. We got Charles back, you know this. But as of right now, I feel like we've covered everything pretty well in this broadcast. If you did miss anything or came in late, this video will be available on our YouTube and Facebook for you to watch at any time. Of course, the rest of our forecast posts are up on Twitter and Facebook as well. Make sure you follow us, turn on alerts and notifications, all those bells and whistles and stuff so you don't miss any more live videos today. You're going to need them. That said, I'm George Herbig, Chief Forecaster here with Weather Now Kentucky. Until next time, stay safe, folks.